This is Chapter 8, Part 2. We started right into Chapter 8 from Part 2 of Chapter 7. So now we're on Chapter 8, Part 2 lecture video. We are on Slide 5, Documents. It includes a wide range of items. It can be words, letters, numbers, pictures, sound. It doesn't have to just be a document. There needs to be authentication, proof that a document is what it purports or claims to be. Under the Federal Rules of Evidence 901, it controls the methods and conditions of authentication, and it's a precedent to admission. There's 10 illustrations in the rule. Slide 6, illustrations of authentication. Testimony of a witness with knowledge, a non-expert opinion on handwriting, distinctive characteristics, voice identification, telephone conversations. And under the non-expert opinion on handwriting, it could be, let's say you know your mom's handwriting, your mother's handwriting, and you saw something written and you recognize that as your own mother's handwriting. That would be an example of non-expert opinion on handwriting. You know someone so well and you've seen their handwriting so frequently that you recognize it. Slide 7, illustrations continued. Ancient documents are based on condition, location, and age. The process or system how it was produced, and the method provided by the statute or rule of law. Federal Rules of Evidence 901 is on page 210 and 211, and it talks about the requirement of authentication for identification. So you should look through those 10. I'll just name them really fast. There's a general rule, and then there's examples such as testimony of witness with knowledge, non-expert opinion about handwriting, comparison by an expert witness or trier of the fact, distinctive characteristics, opinion about a voice, evidence about a telephone conversation, evidence about public records, evidence about ancient documents or data compilation, evidence about a process or system, and methods provided by a statute or rule. So you should read through those. Slide 8. Self-authentication. Some documents carry a presumption of admissibility under the Federal Rules of Evidence 902. Domestic public documents under seal, foreign public documents, certified copies of public records, newspapers or periodicals, and trade inscriptions follow under that. Slide 9 continues it. Other examples: acknowledged documents, commercial paper, presumptions under acts of Congress, certified domestic records of regularly conducted activity, certified foreign records of regularly conducted activities. Slide 10, common self-authenticated documents, sealed government documents, notarized documents. Slide 12, common self-authenticated documents continued, official publications, testimony of a witness that has direct knowledge of it, lay opinion on handwriting. I already mentioned that. Slide 13. A forensic document examiner could also authenticate a document and they're known as a handwriting expert. They would compare a sample in question to a known sample of the person in question, analyzing a known to an unknown, seeing if it's the same person that made the writing. They look at distinctive characteristics. And then another form of self-authentication is public records that are not sealed or acknowledged, and those are often reports. Ancient documents must be proven to be over 20 years of age. And then a process or system document would be a proof of method in the production of the document, such as an X-ray. Slide 15 talks more about the forensic document examiner. They can testify for or against authenticity based on handwriting or signature, typewriter, printers, faxes, check machines, stamps or labels, printing process, inks, and paper. And again, they're comparing questioned and known evidence. Slide 16, under handwriting comparison, they look at the skill of the examiner. The skill of the examiner is the central issue. He or she makes a comparison to the exemplar. Now, the skill of the examiner, one of my closest friends is a handwriting forensic document examiner, and they undergo 3 years of training before they can even work on real casework, and then their work is verified. So their skill is very high. And then they also look at alterations, erasures, obliterations. They look at the video spectral comparator is a machine they use that gives them infrared light or UV light to look at obliterations, for fraud and forgery and things, paper and ink. Slide 17, application of the hearsay rule as in regards to documents. All statements made out of court, including documents, are hearsay. Generally, hearsay is admissible, but there's two major exceptions for documents to be entered: business records and official documents. Slide 18 for business records. It's established under the Federal Rules of Evidence 803 parentheses 5. It allows records of business that are commonly kept, such as gun store records, telephone records, time cards for work. Slide 19. There are three basic requirements that fall under the business record exception. It must be based on someone with knowledge of the event recorded, the record made in a timely manner and regular course of business, and the record must be commonly or regularly made by that business. Continuing on slide 20, the Federal Rules of Evidence 803 parentheses 8, it typically covers any report or record made by a government agency in the original or ordinary course of their work. It includes factual findings by the government and covers mandatory reports such as investigative reports. Oh, I'm sorry. It says investigative reports are not covered and remain hearsay. Slide 21, introducing the content of a document. Best evidence rule, the original document should be admitted and it's preferred over duplicates. Slide 22, original versus duplicate. There are three different Federal Rules of Evidence that state originals are preferred, but duplicates are admissible. In slide 23, you have primary and secondary evidence. Primary would be your original. Secondary would be evidence beyond the original. And slide 24 talks about the Federal Rules of Evidence under secondary evidence that in order to allow admissibility, the original has to have been lost or destroyed, not obtainable, in possession of an opponent, and it relates to a collateral matter not closely related to the case. So there's various rules that are kind of confusing, actually. I mean, you have to really read through it thoroughly in the textbook to understand it, and there's not a whole lot of questions on that for your quiz. 25, photographic evidence has to be relevant, and it must accurately depict the scene and evidence. It's preferred over secondary photos. You want your primary photos, and it should not be unduly prejudicial. The judge will decide if there's photographs that should not be admitted in court. There is a proper foundation for admission. Usually the attorney, one of the attorneys will ask the forensic technician or police officer, when they were there, if this looks like the scene and evidence at the time, and so on. Slide 26, models, maps, and diagrams. Accuracy is the key issue. There can be computer simulations that are admitted, but crime scene diagrams are admitted as well. That's the end of Chapter 8 lecture video.